Hello. I am looking at our discussion, Module 2. Looking at the first question, it says, what worldviews do you recognize that you hold? First off, to get into that, today I'll be talking about my beliefs with religion. I am religious, so to me that's something that I can relate to, but make sure you are able to align them with the text. So I will do that in 1 second, but I'm going to go ahead and answer the next question. Are there any that you did not realize shaped your culture and communication before learning about them? To get into that, yes, I did not realize that until after the fact. I started getting more into my faith, but looking back at it now, yes, a lot of the beliefs I had before I got more religious are very different than what they are now. And the communication is more advanced, I'd say, now than it was before. Just because I've gained more knowledge and I've been trying really hard to learn more about it and get more connected with my religion. The next question asks, do you know someone who reacts to differences that might be tied to worldviews in ways different than you do? I would say yes. I'd have to say that my journey with my religion was very different than the people I know in my life. I'm not saying other people haven't had this situation, but I feel like I learned more about it later on than most people. So, for example, my family and I are not on the same page with this situation or this understanding, and whereas the family that I'm married into is definitely more understanding, I think. It doesn't make any of it bad, it just means that we all see things differently and have different perspectives on it. So yeah. Now, I did want to jump into the textbook really fast. I found one section that I thought was really good on page 38, on the Communication and Culture textbook. It's under the Good and Evil section. If we just scroll down, give me 1 second. I will read it to you in just 1 second. Sorry, I was just looking for the section really quickly, but I did want to read it to you. On page 38, it's, although differences in religious beliefs exist at the heart of many cultural differences, they are perhaps most clearly revealed within this worldview continuum. I really liked this part of the reading because it made me feel understood in the sense of everyone's path is different when it comes to religion, and it does actually cause a lot of separation, I think, in different cultures. Even within cultures too, though, that's something that I've noticed, especially with my family. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Okay, so looking at question 2, it says, using the text and your experience, give an example of an instance where you recognize that one of your values was violated. That is actually a really good question. I think the most I've ever felt violated was once I started going down the path of my religion, which is Christianity, but I won't jump into that. My family, if you look at Christianity, there's a bunch of different branches of it. I am a non-denominational Christian, but my family says they are too, but we have very different opinions on certain things when it comes to the Bible and what happened and all of that. So I guess what I could say is, as far as violation goes, I feel like once I started going down my own path, they were always questioning me and basically just telling me that I was wrong. But I let them know that it is okay to have different opinions on this and different values and different views on things because, well, everyone's path is different. It does say what was or what were the values, so I can jump into it a little bit. Mainly, so I believe in the full Bible front and back. I'm still learning about it. I have a lot to learn. By no means am I perfect at this. I don't think anybody is. But I would bring something up with my family and they would question me and, well, basically kind of make fun of the fact that I believed that certain things are not true in our world. For example, this is hard for me to talk about because I know a lot of people believe it and I don't have any, I don't feel, Hold on. Sorry about that. My computer was starting to shut off and almost died. But, everyone's opinions are different. So, for me, I don't believe in evolution, which is kind of strange for me to say out loud because that is something I used to believe in 4 years ago. So, my path has changed and it's changed me. And I'm not saying that, whoever's watching this, your opinion isn't wrong. Or anything like that. I'm not saying that, I'm right and you're wrong, or it's not about that. It's just what I personally believe, and I feel like I handle it with grace, and if someone else were to tell me they believed in evolution, that I would have no issue with that at all. So, it just kind of stung that I was making myself feel comfortable with my religion, and they were shaming my values, and, well, that's just one example. So, looking at the last question of question 2, would you do anything differently now that you realized others may have different values that are equally valid? That is a great way of saying it because that's what I was trying to say before. Just because I believe that evolution is not real does not mean that your opinion of it being real is not valid. It's all equally valid. It's an opinion, and I'm always open to hear other people's opinions. So, to answer this question, no, I don't think I would do anything differently in this specific instance. There are other instances where I do think I could have handled it with more grace and understanding. But with this, I try to be understanding with my family and kind with them and understand that their values are also equally valid. So, no, I wouldn't change anything on that. Okay, so if we turn to page 29, it talks about manifestations of culture, and just going down a few, I think would be considered paragraphs. It talks about norms, so I'm going to be answering question 3, just to clarify. It says, just because two people share the same worldwide value or worldview does not mean that they necessarily share the same values or norms. And then you go down and it says, finally, norms for behavior are much more concrete than worldviews or values, just as a cow is more specific than livestock. So basically, based off of my lived experience, what are 3 norms that you recognize in your day-to-day so far? I need 1 second to figure out exactly what I'm going to say. One thing that I really strongly feel is a norm for me would be how I communicate with people on a day-to-day basis. So, basically it says in the question, like, ways of greeting. I always try to greet people in a positive manner that is not rude or diskind, based off of how I personally feel and my values, and but it is a norm for me to go up to someone and actually have a conversation with them and be kind to them, and I try to be as helpful as I can. Another thing that I think is a norm is, for me, I am a lifeguard certified person, so when I see someone hurt, I instinctually just see what I can do. That's just, one of the ways that I live. It goes on to say, clothing, what are others you recognize? Any, you notice lately? So, those are just 2. Okay, and then for the third one, it kind of falls under the way of greeting, but not really. It's just in the way of communicating with people, especially with family. So I'm going to jump into family. I find that a norm for me is to consistently bring up my relationship with my religion, like with God, So I consistently talk about that with my family, and it seems like a very normal way of living for us. If we have a question about something, we tie it in with other things and we ask bigger questions, and yeah. Okay, so for the very last question, this would be question 5. I decided to do 1, 2, 3, and 5. It says, do you recognize, sorry, I don't know if it cut out, but it says, do you recognize how world views, sorry, my computer's freezing, why? Okay, sorry, I'm very new to the software, so you have to hang in with me because I'm trying my very best. Do you recognize how worldviews, values, and norms are connected to communication? I do in some senses. I know I have a lot of work to try and understand that better, but as far as worldviews, values, and norms are connected to communication. Yeah, I mean, just like I mentioned before, a lot of my norms include how I talk to people, and communication is a huge part of that. So, if I see someone and they come and ask me a question, I'm going to be very honest and kind about it, because of my religious background, but not just because of that. I've always been that kind of a person to begin with. It just makes my religion and my beliefs a lot easier to follow, I guess you could say. So yeah, and then it says, what are some ways that you recognize their influence on your own communication with others? This one's kind of hard for me, so I think that it makes me kind of nervous to talk to people, especially nowadays with a lot going on with differences in our culture. So it's just really complicated. What are some ways that you recognize their influence on your own communication with others? That's a very big question. Give me 1 second. So I'm gonna skip that one. I know it does influence my communication, but not too much, because that's the kind of person I am already. So to go on to the next question, do you feel more open-minded about differences you encounter with others now that you realize each of us operates with unique ways of viewing the world based off of cultural communication influences? Yes, I actually do feel much more open-minded, but I was never really that close-minded either, so it gives me more understanding and availability for people to share their opinions on things and their values and their norms, because I know that everyone has their own unique way of viewing the world. So yeah, there's all my questions. I hope you enjoyed listening to me. I'm so sorry if this was not up to par. I promise it'll get better. I'm trying to get used to the new software on my computer for this. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great night.